Hi, Kim.
Hi guys, how are you?
Good, and you?
Hey, I'm good. Hi guys, how are you? Nice to see you all.
Hello.
The school committee should be joining us soon. Good luck, you guys are gonna do awesome.
Kim, can I introduce you to our school class president, Caitlin Din?
Sure, you can. I can't see her.
Caitlin, this is Miss Wells, Kim Wells. She's in charge of all the high schools. Are you
Is she
there?
on?
Everybody, can you hear me? I'm gonna have to mute you guys because we are live right now. Until the mayor calls on you, please stay muted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. I think everybody's on speaker list there.
Yeah. Josue, are we on?
Yes, you're good to go.
Okay. Good evening. We'll call the student representatives, the high school version meeting to order. Our apologies to the viewing audience, students, administration. We got a little long in executive session. Our work to get our teachers and students and staff back into school for the hybrid and further on. Good health and happy Easter, happy Passover to you and your families. And we'll start out with Springfield Central is in the house, a big victory over Minichog last Friday. Caitlin Din, she's Central's student body president, and she's supported by Mr. Central himself, Principal Tad Tokars, and Erica Slozak is also here. So, Caitlin Din, if there, I see you there. How are you? The Zoom camera is yours.
Hi everyone, my name is Caitlin Din, and I am the student body president of Springfield Central High School, which is an honor. I'm a senior planning to attend a four-year college, either Western New England, UMass Amherst, to enter in the field of medicine to help my community one day, because I really love Springfield. This is my home. Central has been preparing for MCAS, SAT, and AP tests, and for the return of students by making sure all safety protocols are in place. Our counselors are starting to schedule grade 9, 10, and 11 classes for next year. We are excited to be able to offer new classes in advanced technology, engineering, and dance. During this school year, our student government has been committed to fostering a sense of unity among the student body. We have been selling senior and school-wide shirts. We organized a spirit week and created a thank you video for first responders. We have recently formed a senior activity committee to plan for prom if it is allowed. We are working on getting seniors their cap and gowns as well. Lastly, student government has been prioritizing school spirit and fun online through a school-wide Kahoot game event. We began this school year remotely with feelings of confusion, stress, anxiety, and more. However, as the school year continued, Central students have adjusted to online learning, and with the help from our teachers and staff, the feeling of hope rises as students go by each day, thinking that one day this pandemic will be over. Our students are trying their best to work hard online, and our teachers are determined to provide us with the best education possible. Honestly, I feel that my school is doing the best they can, and as student body president, working with teachers and staff, I couldn't ask for a better team. Springfield Central High School is still soaring. Central would like to thank Superintendent Warwick, Mayor Sarno, and the school committee for their leadership and support throughout this unique experience. Thank you for the opportunity to speak out this evening.
Thank you, Caitlin. Nice job. Or should we say Dr. Din? Yes, that's what we'll say in the future. Okay, very good. High School of Science and Technology is in the house. Brandon Zhang's here, Eric Tynes I saw, supported by Principal Kevin Laline. I saw Assistant Principal Timmy Malone, and Elliot Best, Assistant Principal. So Brandon or Eric, whoever wants to go first.
Oh, I'll go first, man.
Oh, okay. It was a tie. We'll give it to Eric. Okay, Eric.
So hello, my name is Eric Tynes, and this year I'm a senior at SciTech, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk at this event. And so I was at Renaissance from 6th to 11th grade, and then I transferred to Tech for my senior year due to the AP classes and to be able to play at a higher level, like basketball-wise and like athletic-wise, things like that. And I would say that overall at SciTech, I definitely had a good experience, and overall in the Springfield Public Schools, I would say I had a good experience. And especially at SciTech, where they've given me the option to take a wide variety of classes that I've never really taken before. And these classes include like video production, finance, and things like that. So a bunch of classes that I've never really taken before. And I've also really appreciated the help that I got while I was transferring from Mr. Best and Miss Ward. They really helped me knowing what's going on, what's going to happen during remote learning, things like that. And help me get in touch with people and things like that. And in addition, my basketball coach, Coach Shaka, he's also helped me get used to transferring, get used to the basketball team, and he's helped me with my remote learning as well, like understanding like what class I have at certain times and things with the schedule, because I had like a new schedule I never had before. And so overall, I would say that SciTech has provided me with a great path to my future. And because of the excellent teachers, the academic support, the different array of classes, and the advanced placement work.
Eric, good job. Continue being a great student athlete. Brandon, you're up.
All right. So I'm also a senior at SciTech, right? And all for all 4 years there, I've never once been told that I can't do something, right? So as you may tell, I'm a bit nervous and I'm not really up normally doing public speaking stuff, but
You're doing fine, Brandon. You're doing fine.
like I said, I've always been encouraged to do stuff that's out of my comfort zone. So I've been growing. I've always been supported to grow. And quite honestly, you wouldn't tell, but I'm the SciTech band president. And I oversee all the workings there. And,
What instrument do you play?
I play tenor sax. And I would say I'm pretty hot at it.
That's pretty good.
So yeah,
Where's the saxophone? Play us a tune, will you?
I would, but Zoom is not exactly the best
Okay.
for my talents, you
What a
know.
great job, Tyler.
But yeah, that's the crux of it, you know. I've been supported by all my teachers in the administration at my school, and it's basically shared throughout the entire school. It's not just me being pushed up. I'm not some special kid. We're all pushing each other, all getting supported, you know? And my message may be, it may be a bit everywhere, but I'm trying my best, and hey, that's what our teachers want from us, you know? So,
You did a great job, Brandon. Okay?
so thank you guys. Yeah, thanks.
Next time, bring the saxophone, okay? Bring the sax.
Will do.
Putnam, Roger L. Putnam Technical Vocational Academies in the house. Savannah Roman, supported by Principal George Johnson. And Isha Torres, Dean of Students. I saw Ms. Torres there. And I don't know if there's any intro. If not, we'll go to Savannah.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is
Yeah.
Savannah Roman. I am the Senior Vice President at Putnam Vocational Academy. These are my last few months at Putnam, so I am a little sad about that, but I'm very happy to have this opportunity to speak with all of you and share my experience. Automatically being accepted at Putnam opened a lot of doors for me. Not only was I able to learn in a beautiful setting, but I also got a feel and touch for 22 career fields and shops at the same exact time. Out of those 22 shops, the business information management shop suited me most. And since I want to major in marketing and business, I was very excited to find that we had business within our school. So at 14 years old, freshman, I was able to expose myself to the business field and learn curriculums and lessons that some of us pay for free. And yes, COVID has completely changed everything, but despite these numerous months of digital learning, our senior counsel, Mr. Johnson, and members of the staff, they really did jump the extra mile and improvised to provide for us seniors. And COVID-19 is and was new for all of us, and I cannot be any more grateful for the way that my school tackled this issue. So I am very proud to be a Putnam student because it is like no other school. And I can proudly say that attending this vocational school has brought me experiences I could not have had anywhere else and definitely has maximized my skills and allowed me to expand. I'll forever be proud to say that I am a part of the Putnam Beavers.
All right, Jen. Yeah, way to go. Good job, Ms. Roman. Thank you. Last but not least is Springfield Renaissance Schools in the House, Chantel Cheney, Adriana Ochoa, supported by Principal Ariana Colburn and Joanna Bardwell, I'm sorry, assistant principal. So if there's no opening, it'll be between you, Chantel, Adriana. Who wants to open up?
Six first.
I don't mind
Adriana,
starting.
you win the door prize. Go ahead.
I'll start. Hello. So my name is Adriana Cho, and I'm a junior at the Springfield Renaissance. And so me and Chantel are both going to be presenting TED Talks that we wrote in our AP English class. And so mine is entitled, Do Others Really Know Who We Are? So, do we really know who we are? Rather, do other people know who we really are? Trust me, it might sound like a stupid question, but when we look at how we interact with others, we start to see the merit it holds. Whether you realize it or not, it is so easy to project what you want for others onto them. This can happen often in little and big ways. I have sometimes felt like I was more than one person. I was a different Adriana to different people. You ever slip up and say something weird or admit to something interesting? You can't be like, oops, sorry, the wrong personality came out. I got so clouded in what other people wanted from me that I lost sight of what I wanted and who I really was. It led to a lot of confusing and conflicting moments. I would sit and think about what different people had said to me and how contradictory it was. What people wanted from me weren't things necessarily bad. They were people who loved me, but they wanted me to be a certain way or do certain things. And in turn, I could be what they imagined, happy or successful. The National Institute of Health discusses a study that was conducted in order to determine age-related differences in social influence. It was concluded other people's beliefs and actions can have a significant impact on our own behavior. A large body of work has shown that people change their behavior in order to fit in with others, proving how even unintentionally we have the ability to change not only ourselves, but the people around us as well. Is that what life is supposed to be like? Not at all. Life is supposed to be about growing and finding your interests and what makes you, you. Disgustingly cliche, I know. As adolescents, we are always preached to dream big and to follow them. We can accomplish anything as long as we work hard and dedicate ourselves. Next thing you know, you're sitting in a counselor's office having them explain to you why your big plans aren't happening. That's because something very unvalued in society is empathy. You might wonder, well, what is empathy? Webster's dictionary describes it as the action of understanding, being aware of, being sensitive to, and vicariously experiencing the feelings and thoughts of another. Notice the keyword action. Empathy is more than just listening, it's understanding. And in today's society, rather than try to understand who others are and build each other up for our interests or dreams, we are quick to shoot each other down and project our own expectations. Do others know who we are? Does your best friend know why you want to be an artist, or is she still telling you you'd be a killer doctor? Do your parents know why you actually want to study out of state, or are they still telling you that a local college is a better fit for you? Does your favorite teacher know why you feel college isn't right for you, or are they still glorifying your academics and pushing to write your college recommendation? Again, when we project onto others, our intentions are often pretty pure. We want what's best for the ones we love, but is that really what they want? We are what we make our future out to be. On top of that, we are the building blocks for the people around us. Within, we have the ability to uphold unwavering empathy. Rather than judge, listen. Rather than disregard, encourage. Most importantly, rather than project, try to understand. The smallest drop of care can make the biggest ripple of change. That way, we can say we know who the people we love are and can support one another along the way. Thank you.
Great TED Talk. Way to go.
Exactly what it was. It is an excerpt from our TED Talk series that our juniors did.
Thank you, Principal Goldberg. Chantel, you're up.
Hi, my name is Chantel Cheney, and my TED Talk is entitled No, You Can't Touch My Hair. Imagine being surrounded by the beauty standard, and as the months go by, unknowingly accepting that white skin and straight hair is what made someone beautiful. That young Black girl was me, and it took me years to understand that society's beauty standard is corrupt. From a young age, I attended Catholic school and soon found myself chemically changing my hair to blend in, to appear normal. In 8th grade, I made the choice to begin loving my natural hair, and my journey began. Discrimination against Black people in this country dates all the way back to its founding when America used Black people as their economy.
After being crowded with thousands of other slaves in the cargo area for months, auctions were held. White people came from various areas to measure the value of African Americans as they stood in front of them, malnourished, chained, and abused. Many people incorrectly believe that the horrid past of slavery is in the past, but the truth is that slavery is very much relevant in our country today. The after effects of slavery are felt by the descendants of enslaved people, and one place it's very prevalent is schools. In December 2018, Andrew Johnson, a Black New Jersey teenager, was made to cut his dreadlocks by a white referee to continue participating in his school's wrestling match. Why? Why was his hair so controversial? Let's break it down. New Jersey's wrestling rules state that the athlete's hair must not pass their earlobes, which is why he cut his hair the previous night. Maloney, the referee, decided to justify his statement by citing the rule that the athlete's hair must be in its natural state. Why are locks not considered natural? Why is a Black person protecting their hair considered unnatural? Our white founders thought their futures were inferior, unnatural, and disgusting, which is why this situation and many like it occur. According to a 2016 study from Perception Institute, 1 in 5 Black women feel social pressure to straighten their hair for work, twice as many as white women. Black women have to continuously feed society's standards because of the policies companies have built. We feel that our hair in its natural state isn't beautiful and we need to follow their standards. I'll admit I am a culprit of this. I have always felt the need to straighten my hair when in professional settings. I don't feel confident enough that if I wear my curly, coily hair, that a company would choose to hire me versus a white woman with straight hair. Many companies have grooming policies which my hair goes against. I understand that cleanliness is important to a job, but there have been countless times when I have to either straighten my hair or brush nearly every curl to fit their standards. Companies need to reevaluate their policies because every other Black person like myself shouldn't have to change their appearance. Are you not ashamed to ask, or even a worse, attempt to touch my hair? Do you not acknowledge that my history and the value my hair holds? My ancestors carried their rice in their hair to quench their hunger on their journey to freedom. They used their hair as a route for the Underground Railroad, and you dare touch my hair? Think of it like this. You may sometimes ask to pet a dog and even do so without asking. And you do the same to Black women and don't see how you're equating the two. I am not a dog. I am not the circus. Just because my hair may look strange or odd to you doesn't give you the right to stare or want to reach out and touch it. When you see a white woman, your eyes do not attach themselves to her hair. You may glance and move on. You see a Black woman's hair and a million questions appear. My hair is sacred. My hair holds the history and struggles of those who came before me. To everyone listening in, I want you to take in every word I have spoken. I want you to educate yourself in areas you don't understand. I want you to understand the significance of Black people in this country. Thank you.
Okay, great job. Each and every one of you, thank you very much. And again, good health to you and your families, and happy Easter and happy Passover. That concludes the student representative section of tonight's meeting, high school version. We're going to take a 1-minute recess. You're more than willing to stay. We'll move right into our regularly scheduled meeting. Thank you very much. Go ahead. Josue, are we live?
Yes, we're good.
Okay. Good evening. We'll call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Naylor?
Yes, present.
Attorney Murphy?
Present.
Ms. Hurst?
Present.
Ms. Gresham?
Present.
Ms. Perez?
You're mute, Maria.
Present.
Mr. Collins?
Here.
Mayor Sarno?
Present. Will we all please rise for a moment of silence and bring the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And to each and every one of you and your families and to the viewing audience, good health and happy Easter and happy Passover, which is right around the corner. We'll now move to approval of the minutes of March 11th, 2021, regular school committee meeting. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
So moved.
Motion by Vice Chair Collins, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gresham. Roll call vote is required due to the Zoom meeting. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Naylor,
Yes.
Attorney Murphy,
Yes.
Ms. Hurst,
Yes.
Ms. Gresham,
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mayor Sarno.
Yes, more than sufficient vote, this matter passed. Thank you. We'll now move to voting items. A is to approve revisions to the Springfield Public Schools face mask policy. Superintendent Ward, please.
Thank you, Mayor. You were sent out a packet on this, and Attorney Kennedy is going to take us through this section.
Attorney Kennedy, Mary Jo, please.
I think Mary Jo is not with us. She was on her way to connect with her other computer. So she can sign on, or we could pass that for a moment. She should be on any minute.
The next one's yours.
Next one's yours too, yeah.
Don't we go to sports?
All right, with the indulgence of the school committee, because A and B pertains to Attorney Kennedy, we'll go to C, which is to approve spring sports. Superintendent Warwick, and I know that
Yeah.
Assistant Superintendent Martinez and AD Early, Dwayne Early also. Thanks for your efforts.
Yeah, Lydia and Dwayne have done a fabulous job, and Helen has been a great help, our health commissioner, with our sports program. So I'll turn it over to Lydia and Dwayne, and I thought I saw Helen here earlier.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner
Yeah, so
Paulton Harris.
appreciate
I
it.
know it's been a long day for you. We had another vaccine clinic in the South End today. So thank you, Helen, very, very much. Superintendent Ward?
Yeah, so I'll let Lydia and Dwayne make their presentation.
Thank you, Superintendent. First, I'd like to thank our commissioner for always being by our side for everything that we've done with sports. Our first announcement is that we are pausing our football effective yesterday because we did do our due diligence by testing the students when we said that we would in the beginning, in the middle, and at the end of each sport. We did have some positive cases, and so as a result, and because of an abundance of caution, we decided to pause the sports until we retest the players, which we are scheduled to retest them on April 5th. We will let you know what the outcome is of that test and if we will be restarting football. Volleyball, we did not have any positive cases, so volleyball will continue as scheduled. It was just for football for clarification. And then as we have done all year, even though our great city is in cold yellow, which we're very happy and proud of, we still want to come before you with our spring sports schedule for your approval. And so I'll turn it over to the commissioner and see if she has anything else to say, but I really want to just express how great of a partner the commissioner has been with us, and Jeannie and Dwayne and myself. We've been meeting regularly on sports. And so Commissioner, I'll turn it over to you and then over to AD Early to give us the presentation on the spring sports. Commissioner?
No, I have really nothing to add except to thank the Springfield Public School team, Assistant Superintendent Martinez, AD Early, and Jeannie Clancy. Our plans work well. Immediately when anything happens as far as a positive case is concerned, we gather immediately and develop our strategy. That's what we said we would do. We asked you to trust us. And so this is a manifestation of that trust. And I'm very appreciative of the team that I'm working with from Springfield Public Schools. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Paulton Harris. AD Early, Dwayne?
Good evening, everyone. I just want to echo the statements that Assistant Superintendent Martinez and the commissioner have stated it's been a great team to work with. Commissioner, she's always been there at a drop of a hat when we needed her. And should an emergency arise, it was great to work with the team. The strategic planning and having the dates strategically placed for testing, I think, has really mitigated a lot of the things that could have occurred. So I think we've done a great job. And again, school committee members, Mr. Collins, Superintendent Warwick, Mayor Sarno, appreciate everything you've done thus far in support for the athletic department. This is spring sports, so it's possibly the final time that we would come before you this school year. So again, I just want to say thank you for all the support, and on behalf of the athletic department. Patty, if you could bring the first slide up. Okay, so spring sports are scheduled to start on April 26th. That's the day after Fall 2 will conclude. So spring sports will start on April 26th. Next slide. So with spring sports, again, the timeline for spring sports are April 26th to the 3rd of July. It's been extended a little bit because we're getting a late start due to the additional season that was added by the MIA this year to try to get all sports in. So Fall 2 will run a little bit into the traditional spring season, but they've extended that. With the change, the one major change that spring sports will come with this year is, as opposed to the other sports, is there will be postseason play. The MIAA, EEA have come together and approved a state tournament at the end of the spring season. Of course, as we've done with all the seasons before, proper training will be provided to all coaches, trainers, athletes, and site supervisors. The gyms and the fields that we will use for spring will follow all guidelines in terms of social distancing, and specific sports modifications, of course, will be followed as we've done this past year. No spectators will be allowed. We'll continue that model. That model has helped well with just keeping the traffic low at the sports. Locker room and bathroom protocols will be in place for any facility that shall have one. And there will also be designated entrances and exits, doors and gates, because we will be outside for a lot of spring sports. So there will be designated entrances and exits. For spring sports, there are quite a handful of sports that take place during the springtime. Outdoor track will be the first one up, and as we have, of course, throughout this school year, we will practice in pods of 10. There will be no cross-pod interactions, and there will be locker and bathroom protocols established. There'll be staggered practices at Birdie Field. That's the track that we use for Springfield Public Schools sports. There will be, again, a schedule developed so that they will limit traffic. Also, all track teams will minimize cross contact with the schedule that we build. For outdoor track, we will need transportation required because we do play in leagues that are outside of the district, and also because, again, there will be postseason for the spring. So our recommendation is that we do participate in outdoor track. Next slide. Baseball and softball, I put these two together because they're a very similar sport. Just one for the boys, one for the girls. However, there's social distancing incorporated in the sport of baseball and softball. But again, we will practice in pods of 10. There will be no cross-pod interaction. Lockers and bathrooms at the fields will be, there will be protocols established. And again, because of the postseason play for sports, transportation will be required as we'll try to get back to some sort of normal in play within the leagues. Our recommendation is that we do participate in both the sports of baseball and softball. Next is boys and girls lacrosse. Again, outdoor sport. There is minimal contact in lacrosse. However, it is an outdoor sport, so it's very similar to soccer. The modifications, of course, again, will be followed. They'll practice in pods of 10, no cross-pod interaction. And once again, transportation will be required as we are trying to get back to league play due to the fact that spring sports will have postseason play. our recommendation is that we do participate in lacrosse. And boys volleyball is in the spring. Boys volleyball, again, like girls volleyball that took place in the fall too, their practices will occur in positive 10. There will be no switching of sides in between sets for boys volleyball, and also typically they would change benches during competition. However, they will not, they will remain on the same bench throughout the duration of competition. Locker and bathroom protocols, of course, will be established. And this, for boys volleyball, what we can do is we can participate within the city. So there will be no transportation required. Boys volleyball, like girls volleyball, we can participate within the city. We do recommend that we participate in volleyball.
Thank you.
Tennis. Tennis is another outdoor sport in the spring that will have positive 10, no cross-pod interactions. The players will not switch sides in tennis during competition. Again, locker and bathroom protocols will be established. Transportation for tennis will be required, as we have two tennis teams that co-op within the city. So again, postseason play, we will need transportation required, and our recommendation is that we do participate in tennis. And the next step is competitive chair. Competitive chair, like chair that took place in the fall, will have practices in positive 10. Locker and bathroom protocols will be established. Competitive chair, however, there will be no competition, no transportation required, because the competitions will be virtual. The recommendation is that we do participate in competitive chair. Weight training. A lot of our teams in the springtime and from the fall too use the weight training programs that we have within the city to, again, recover after a season or prepare for the next. Just like everything else, we will participate in positive 10, no cross-pod interaction. The all proper cleaning of equipment that is used will be, everything will be sanitized, and there will be, again, a schedule established within the positive 10 so that there's no cross-pod interaction. Exit and entries will be established. There's no transportation required for weight training, as there's no competition. It's just done at the individual schools. The recommendation is that we do participate in weight training. Wrestling. Wrestling was originally a winter sport. Then there was possibility that it would happen in the fall, and then there's possibility that it will happen in the spring. However, right now I cannot give any modifications or guidelines because it is still in the hands of the MIAA and EEA, as there's a lot of obviously contact involved with wrestling, and it's still a decision that has not yet been made.
And we will also be testing the students again in the beginning, in the middle, and at the end of the sports, as has been our protocol all year.
Again, thank you, Assistant Superintendent Martinez, Athletic Director Dwayne Early, Commissioner Helen Carlton-Harris, Chief Nurse Jeannie Clancy, the whole team. Are there any questions or comments from school committee members? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion on the floor to accept?
I move we accept the recommendation of the team.
Motion by Vice Chair Collins. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Second by Attorney Peter Murphy. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Naylor,
Yes.
Attorney Murphy,
Yes.
Ms. Hurst,
Yes.
Ms. Gresham,
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mayor Sarno.
Yes, board decision votes this matter passes. Thank you. We're trying to go back to the agenda. I know Attorney Mary Jo Kennedy was delayed. Is she back on?
She's not, but I'd be happy to pinch hit for her. Thank you for passing that for a moment. I'm hoping she's okay. Again, thank you for passing that item. This is the face mask policy. There are several changes to the policy, and I believe, Patty, can you put that up on the screen, please?
Sure, it'll just give me one moment.
Sure.
I wasn't expecting it. One moment.
So the changes are in blue,
Changes
blue
are-
line.
Right.
And the changes, the significant one is that, as was referred to earlier during Melissa's presentation, the students in preschool and grade 1 had an exemption from wearing face masks. DESE has removed that exemption. So that was struck from the face mask policy. Those students will be required to wear masks. There is an exemption. Thank you. So if you scroll down just a bit further, and then we changed the language from face covering to face mask because that's what DESE has been using. So we wanted to be consistent with DESE's use of that word. You can see the first strikeout paragraph, students in preschool and grade 1, that's the change pursuant to DESE's change in their policy. The other, so that removed that exemption. The first now remaining bullet is there is an exemption for students from the mask policy who have a medical, behavioral, or other challenge making it unsafe to wear a face mask. And that has remained and will be in effect, and that will be on an individual basis with the student's teacher, parent, with a conversation regarding whether or not they qualify for the exemption. If you see that it indicates that the
subcommittee did this go to?
I'm sorry? It's the principal in consultation with the school nurse, school occupational therapist, or the Springfield Health and Human Services will review the information and decide whether to approve the exemption. So that is a collaborative effort regarding that exemption. There needs to be a written notice from the parent or guardian requesting that the student be excused from wearing a mask. That note would be insufficient. It has to be the professionals who are making the judgment based upon the certain circumstances of the student. On the next page, thank you, Patty. School activities during which face masks are not required. This significant change to this paragraph is the last sentence. During nap time, preschool students must remove their face masks, and that's for safety concerns as students are sleeping. The responsibility for providing masks remains with the parent or guardian of the students. Students that don't come with a mask will be provided disposable masks by district staff and students at the building entrance or boarding the school transportation without a face mask. Those are the significant changes to the face mask policy. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions school committee members may have.
Any questions from school committee members, please? Say again, any questions from school committee members? Hearing none, is there a motion on the floor, please?
I move we accept the amended policy.
Motion by Vice Chair Collins, is there a second, please?
Second.
Second by Ms. Perez, roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Naylor,
Yes.
Attorney Murphy,
Yes.
Ms. Hurst,
Yes.
Ms. Gresham,
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mayor Sarno.
Yes, board is official vote, this matter passes. Thank you very much. I see Attorney Mary Jo Kennedy is back. Hope everything's okay.
Yes.
Approve revisions of the Springfield Public Schools COVID-19 emergency paid sick leave policy. Superintendent Ward?
Yeah, we made some changes to the last one we passed, so Mary Jo is going to take us through, Attorney Kennedy.
Yes, thank you. And I don't know if Ms. McCarthy wants to put that up on the screen as well.
Sure, just give me one moment.
Sure.
Thanks, Patty.
Thank you, Patty.
Thank you, Ms. McCarthy. So thank you, school committee members, and I apologize for my lateness in joining into the regular session. This policy, there are minor changes to it. Essentially, what we're doing is extending the time frame just having this policy be in effect from the first quarter of 2021 to end through the school year, June 30th. And that way, so it still allows the staff to have 80 hours of emergency paid sick leave. And this is leave that is similar to what was available in 2020 that the school committee had. So here, required by the federal Families First Coronavirus Relief Act. So as you may recall, when this was originally adopted back for January, this was to replace what was in effect by the federal mandate from the Family First Coronavirus Relief Act statute that ended on December 31st, 2020. And now what we're doing, what you would be doing with this is continuing to provide 80 hours of emergency paid leave for employees. And you'll see that there's a slight, just a very minor change. That the reasons for the leave are not really changing. It's if you test positive for COVID-19, or if you're experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 and are seeking medical diagnosis, meaning that you're going to go get tested, or you're subject to a federal, state, or local quarantine or isolation order due to COVID-19 concerns. So those are the essential reasons for this 80 hours of emergency paid leave. What we added in here, though, is to address issues that if you need to travel outside of Massachusetts and outside of the United States, and you return and you're required to quarantine, which is required by or recommended by the Massachusetts Travel Advisory, is that even unless you're vaccinated, you have to be quarantined for 10 days. This emergency paid leave is not available for Springfield public employees who are subject to quarantine because they traveled outside of Massachusetts for personal reasons. And that's the only exclusion for these 80 hours of sick leave. And those are the only changes that are in this policy that are recommended. And again, it will go through the end of the school year so that if employees are sick, they have this additional sick leave available for them for COVID-related reasons.
Thank you, Attorney Kennedy. Any questions or comments on the presentation? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion on the floor?
I move we approve the amended policy for emergency paid sick leave.
Motion by Vice Chair Collins. Is there a second, please? Is there a second, please?
May I ask a question, Mayor?
Go ahead, Ms.
Or do I
Murphy.
have to wait for it to be seconded?
You should wait for it to be seconded. And
All right,
Okay.
second, please.
I'll second it, Mayor.
Second by Attorney Murphy, and thank you, and we'll go to Ms. Hurst.
This policy and the one that we just voted on, did those come through a subcommittee? Or did they come directly to the full committee?
They came directly to the full committee because they were minor changes, as Attorney Phelps indicated, that they were changes either recommended under the face mask policy. It was a requirement of DESE, so you're conforming with language in DESE, and then there were just minor changes. This one is just an extension of the time frame, essentially, for extending the time period for this. So it did not go into subcommittee because it wasn't any substantive changes to both of these policies.
Thank you. So I just want to piggyback on that. So the face mask didn't have to go through subcommittee either?
They were minor changes and that didn't require any discretion by the school committee. So for example, if the policy did not change, just using the example of the face mask policy, if the policy was never presented to the school committee regarding the pre-K students, they wouldn't be exempt from wearing face masks because we would have to comply with DESE's requirement that all pre-K kids through first grade students wear face masks. So given that I believe was the reasons why they did not go to subcommittee, because of the minor changes to those two policies.
Okay, but I'm just, so any policy change
whether it's minor or not, it doesn't necessarily have to go through subcommittee? If there's a change to the policy?
Significant changes do, but if our policy was not in line, in this example, the face mask, with DESI's new mandates or new requirements, the policy was merely updated to make it compliant with the newly mandated DESI requirements. If you recall, the original face mask policy did go through the subcommittee. It did go through the full committee. So our policy was not, because of the DESI changes, mandated changes, our policy was not in conformity. So the changes make it in conformity with DESI. And that's why we bring it to the full committee, so that you'll know DESI's changes and our requirements to make it compliant.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? It's been motion by Vice Chair Collins, seconded by Attorney Murphy. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Naylor,
Yes.
Attorney Murphy,
Yes.
Ms. Hurst,
Yes.
Ms. Gresham,
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mayor Sarno.
Yes, one insufficient vote, this matter passes. Thank you very much. We'll now move to, we already did approving spring sports. We'll move to D, approve the memorandum of agreement between the Springfield Public Schools and the Springfield Public Health Nurses Professionals Healthcare Division of the UFCW. Superintendent Waller.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm recommending approval. We discussed this in the executive session. The nursing corps has just done a fabulous job for us.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion on the floor?
Move we approve the memorandum of agreement between Springfield Public Schools, Springfield Public Health Nurses Professional and Healthcare Division.
Motion by Vice Chair Collins. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gresham. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Naylor,
Yes.
Attorney Murphy,
Yes.
Ms. Hurst,
Yes.
Ms. Gresham,
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mayor Sarno.
Yes, more than sufficient vote, this matter passed. Thank you very much. E is to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Springfield Public Schools and the Springfield Education Association, SEA, Springfield Administrators Association, SSA, and the Springfield Federation of this mask, I'll tell you, can't wait till we take them off. Paraprofessionals, AFT unit. Superintendent Warwick.
Thank you, Mayor. These units chose to bargain together. We've been able to come to an agreement with all the units recommending approval. We discussed it in executive session. Our team and the unions, I think, did a fabulous job coming up with these agreements.
I want to thank the Attorney Shea and Attorney Bill Mahoney on my side, and all the HR and labor units for being able to put this mutually beneficial agreement together. I don't know if there's any questions or comments from school committee members. We really went into it in the executive session. But if there's any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion on the floor?
I move that we approve the memorandum of understanding between Springfield Public Schools and the Springfield Education Association, SEA, Springfield Administrators Association, SAA, and the Springfield Federation of Paraprofessionals, AFT.
Thank you. Motion by Vice Chair Collins. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Second by Ms. Perez. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Naylor,
Yes.
Attorney Murphy,
Yes.
Ms. Hurst,
Yes.
Ms. Gresham,
No.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mayor Sarno.
Yes, more than sufficient votes, this matter passed. Thank you very much. We'll now move to informational items. School reopening update. Superintendent Warwick, please.
Yeah, we have a few updates for you on how we've progressed towards our opening. So Paul was going to project them on the screen for us, and we'll go over them.
What's up, Stats?
Hey, how are you? Good to see you all.
Can you all see that?
Yes.
Could we make it just yeah, can you make it a little bigger, Paul, or?
Yep.
We're gonna have to move out of the room.
Sorry.
We're in the
Mayor.
front row of the movie theater here.
So this just kind of is information we've discussed before, but it kind of lays it out very clearly. Came up with it as a team, and Azel's been nice enough to put it on the website so that it explains which groups are coming back when, because it's got very, very confusing. So we have a return, but then we also have, we were granted the waiver from the state to start hybrid, and it goes over the dates where we go from the hybrid to the full return. So I'll just walk you through it quickly. So our high needs special education group, that's pre-K to 12, all high needs programs. They're gonna come back April 5th, and they're gonna come back 5 days a week. So they'll be here every day. Our SLIFE students that are in ELL programs, again, preschool to 12, they'll come back April 5th, and they're gonna come back 5 days a week. So they're not gonna come back hybrid. Putnam Vocational Technical High School, grades 10 to 12, shop classes only. They're gonna come back April 5th, and we're working through for 5 days a week, I thought, but I think that we're working an every other week schedule on that. So we're working that, it's gonna average 2 to 3, but it's gonna be the every other week to go along with their normal scheduled program. Preschool to grade 5 is gonna start April 5th, 5 days a week. Well, we're gonna start actually, I'm sorry, we're gonna start hybrid, and it's not gonna be 5 days a week. Oh, this is English language learners, I'm sorry. I misread the slide. For English language learners, level 1, it's gonna be April 5th, 5 days a week. Grade 6, April 5th, 5 days a week. 7th and 8th, April 26th, 5 days a week. And 9 to 12 is to be determined. We still haven't heard from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education relative to the high school return. We do anticipate hearing that shortly, and we'll share it with you. All other students, so the students in regular programs, preschool to 5th, April 5th, for 2 days or 3 days each week in a hybrid. May 3rd, the hybrid's been approved till May 3rd. On May 3rd, preschool to pre-K to 5 comes back 5 days a week. 6th grade, April 5th, 2 to 3 days a week, hybrid. On May 10th, DESE approved their hybrid extension till May 10th. They'll switch to 5 days a week. 7th and 8th grades, April 26th, 2 or 3 days a week. Again, May 10th, like the 6th graders, they'll start 5 days a week. And 9th to 12th grade is again to be determined by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. But as soon as we find out that high school start, we'll get that out on the website and get as much information out as possible. And we are anticipating it shortly.
Thank you, Superintendent Ward. I'm sorry, go ahead. Paul, you have more presentation?
Yeah, we've got a few. And
Sorry, go ahead.
Paul did a nice scheduling piece on that. I'll have him explain it for parents so that they can follow the cohort and know exactly what days their kids are going to go in. I'll let Paul take you through it.
Sure, thank you, Superintendent. So this is meant to, and Azel is going to be doing a lot to message this because, as you know, the hybrid schedule is complicated for families. And particularly the Wednesday, the rotating Wednesday. And so what this page is meant to do is highlight, so in this first week, when students are back April 5th, schools are reaching out to families now to let them know if their student is cohort A, B, or C. C is easy, right? Cohort C students are coming 5 days a week. But for A and B, this is meant to say which days of the week you're just coming in person or remote. And so when we message this out, I think Azel is going to be working on this so that each week we'll have this up prominently on the website. So the week of April 5th, folks will be able to say, okay, I know my students cohort A. Which days are they, is this an in-person or a remote Wednesday for my student this week? And, when we get around to the week of April 12th, same thing. Full disclosure, it does get confusing, right? When you get to the week of May 3rd, at the week of May 3rd, as the superintendent said, pre-K to 5th grade are back 5 days a week, but 6th, 7th, and 8th grade are still hybrid. So when we get to this last box here, where it's the week of May 3rd, this really only applies to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So that's why there's this note on the chart. So we just wanted to share with you both what the schedule looks like, but also, what we're going to try to communicate to families to help kind of navigate the complexity of the sort of rotating hybrid Wednesday.
We just thought that Paul came up with this. It's a great idea to help our families navigate this situation.
Any color coding is important. That was very good, Paul. Any other questions, Vice Chair Fallon?
Well, in that first paragraph, the chart is what's going to go on the website, correct? So
yes.
In that first paragraph, the last sentence, would you bold that, please, so that I think people might miss that this is for the people who have opted to stay remote, go remote. So can we either enlarge it, the type, or both, and then bold it so it sticks out?
Absolutely. I'll also fix the fact that it's grammatically incorrect. Sorry about that. But yes, we'll get that bold and feature it prominently.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Paul, did you have more to share? I'm sorry, nobody had questions. Yeah, go ahead. I know if any questions specifically on that presentation. Okay, go ahead.
No, I do actually. I did. For on the very first slide that Paul shared, when the preschool in particular transitions to 5 days, I think on the 3rd, what happens to the preschoolers that are remote? Are they always going to be half day?
Any of the families who have opted for fully remote will just stay fully remote regardless of any of this schedule. So if they've elected for fully remote, they would stay fully remote 5 days a week. Although
No, I know, but will they remain remote with half day? Will it be a half day if their child is in a full day? So like pre-K is full time at Harena and Zanetti. So when they go back in, right, and in particular, when they go back in on May 3rd, the students that remain remote, are they going to be a full day or are they remaining at half day?
I believe, and Marianne, I see Marianne potentially hopping in.
To clarify this, but I believe they're going to be full day, but a little different dismissal time. Marianne, do you want to say that?
Yeah, so thanks. We don't have any half-day programs at Harena and Zanetti. They're full day. So if the parents decide to remain remote, the students will get their remote learning alongside the students that are getting their in-person instruction.
So I'm a parent of a preschooler at Harena who is full day or was before the pandemic. And I just got notified that he will only be half day. And so I did also have another parent ask me what will happen when they transition in for the full 5 days. Will they still be half day? So we've not gotten that communicated to us.
So
that's can I look into that, because that's very interesting to me.
Sure. I got a Class Dojo that the times changed. They went from 8:30 to 11 to 8:50 to 11:15. And I'm not complaining. I mean, I understand that it's really hard to keep the little ones full, 6 hours remote remote, but I know that it has been a question as to whether or not they would remain half day.
Let me look into that, Denise, because we might have a couple of different programs we're talking about here. Maybe you and I are not on the same page, but I'm happy to find out. To my knowledge, Harena, if we're talking the Montessori programs, we're talking full day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm not sure why you would have gotten that message. I'll touch base with Shannon and we'll figure it out.
I'm here too. I do think what they're trying to do is it's a full day program, and the majority of the time the preschoolers are going to engage on the computer via Zoom. The time in the morning is being prioritized, and then they're going to be doing a lot of that the virtual play date pieces, which will involve some of our students who are at school engaging with students who are at home in the afternoon. So it'll be a combination of those virtual play dates, similar to what the kids would have engaged in during centered choice time, as well as some independent learning activities. And I think that is the way they're planning to structure it, so that we don't have our 3 and 4-year-olds trying to stay online for the entire school day.
I mean, that's helpful to hear. I just want to make sure that I let you all know that as a parent, that's not the messaging that I got, and then in turn did get some inquiries. So I think that the clarification would be really helpful, because all we received was that our time would change from the times I stated.
We can get you some clarification around that so that everybody's clear on what in fact the day is going to look and feel like.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll get back to you. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Thank you, Ms. Church, for bringing it up.
I have a question as well.
Yes, Ms. Naylor.
As it relates to the students who are at Putnam vocational, are they undetermined as well based on that schedule that we just saw?
So I know Kim is on. Is Kim on?
When you say undetermined, I guess.
I am.
Can you just clarify what you mean? Because this is,
Okay,
they are
so I
definitely coming
didn't
back
see-
on the 5th.
Okay, so that I didn't see that line. That's why I was asking, because when you scrolled up, I didn't see it again. So I just wanted to get clarification. So the 9th graders at Putnam are in the same boat as the other 9th and 12th graders.
That's correct, Ms. Naylor,
Okay.
that's correct. But the 10th through the 12th will be coming back as we previously discussed on the 29th. For their vocational piece, the academic piece is still to be determined.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Any other questions or comments? Paul, go ahead.
All right. The superintendent asked me to give you a quick update on where we are with surveying families. And then I believe Jeannie Clancy is going to give an update on the latest CDC guidance. So in terms of our surveying of families on their return to school choices, as you can see, really credit to our schools and the work they're doing to reach out to families. We're at an 85% response rate. And you can see a lot of consistency with about 48% of students saying they're coming back for in-person instruction. And that's actually consistent for our special education and our English learner populations as well. Now, when you, sorry, this is the response rate by grade. So, I said it's 85%. Now, we only really, because the high school dates are later, we waited longer to start surveying because we wanted families to have an awareness of what the high school situation would look like before we asked them to make a binding decision. And so we started that later. So really, again, credit to the schools. In the grades pre-K to 8, we're up at 90% or higher in terms of responses from families. And then high school is, because it started later, they're still kind of a little lower, but they're kind of rapidly catching up. It grows every day. Now, if you look at, this is interesting because the last time I shared this data with you, I said it was the same percentages for like every grade level. It was very consistently in the 50s, in the high 40s, low 50s for every grade level. As you can see, there's a pretty clear pattern where families of our youngest students are the ones opting to come back at higher rates than families of our older students. That's not probably in some ways super surprising. Remote learning is a lot harder for little kids than it is for older kids, but also, we're aware that what we're able to offer in person, for example, in terms of a high school experience, just looks pretty different than a typical high school experience. And so I think families are getting that message, and it, I think, is weighing into their decision making about whether to come back. And then again, I already spoke to this, but the responses within special education are very consistent with the overall population. And the same thing is true with our English learners, very consistent. And then I think superintendent, I'm going to hand it over to, oh, sorry, Denise.
Can you go back to the English language learners one? I just wanted to see that really quickly. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so we,
My apologies. This
okay,
header should
no
say
problem.
English
Got it.
learners. The data is
No problem.
correct, but the header is an error.
No worries. No worries. I got it.
Go ahead, Paul.
So Jeannie Clancy is going to come on and talk about some of the health concerns and the changes in the CDC guidance. Jeannie?
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. As you heard from Lydia, Springfield is now in moderate risk, the yellow zone. I want to let you know that school nurses will be working the vaccination clinics that will be scheduled at Bolin Elementary School starting this Saturday, the 27th, for Springfield residents and Springfield Public School staff. People who are eligible for the vaccine are anyone in phase 1 and 2, like at those categories. Next slide, please. This is a review of the CDC updated guidance released March 19th. They revised physical distancing. CDC recommendation now reflects at least 3 feet distance between students and classrooms and provide clearer guidance when a greater distance of 6 feet is recommended. Examples are mask breaks and eating. They clarified the role of the community transmission levels in decision-making. At any level of community transmission, elementary school students should be at least 3 feet apart. At low, moderate, or substantial community transmission, middle and high school students should be at least 3 feet apart. When community transmission is high, middle and high school students should be at least 3 feet apart and remain in their cohorts. Next slide, please. They also clarified that ventilation is a component of strategies to clean and maintain healthy facilities. They removed recommendations for physical barriers and added guidance on interventions when positive clusters occur. We will continue to work with local public health to investigate and contact trace cases. They want us to assess situations where close contacts occurred and implemented interventions that address potential contributors to the clusters. For example, improper use of masks or social distancing, non-essential person interactions, meeting, lunches, or other situations that may lead to adult-to-adult transition. And I was just going to ask if there were any questions.
Any questions, please? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Clancy, for all your continued efforts.
Yeah, Jeannie and her team have been great working with Al.
Thank you.
Yeah, that concludes that report now.
Any other, Ms. Gresham, go ahead. You're mute, Barbara.
Yeah. So I just want to ask, how's the buses? How is that rolling out? Are they going to be 2 students on a seat, or?
So Pat Roach.
So sorry, I had trouble with my volume. We're still in the process of routing the kids on buses, and we're planning to space the kids out as much as possible.
All right. Do we have a count of number of students that requiring the bus? Do we have that?
We do.
We do?
Yes.
All right. Is there a way I can get that information, or we can get that information? The number of students requiring to be on the bus?
Sure.
Okay.
I have a question.
Ms. Gresham, she's okay. Ms. Perez?
Yeah, what is the DESA guidelines with the busing the students when it comes to busing the students?
We need to keep the windows cracked at least 2 inches. We need to load the bus from the back to the front and then unload from the front to the back. We're going to make sure there's hand sanitizer on all the buses that the kids can use as they enter. All students will wear masks while they're on the bus. At the elementary level, there is no capacity restrictions. And at the middle and high school level, the restriction is 2 kids per seat. Those are the DESI restrictions.
So when it comes to cleaning, once they exit the bus, the buses will be clean, sanitized?
Yes.
Okay, and that protocol is in place. That's one of the major concerns that I have with the busing.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Branch. Thank you, Mr. Roach. Any other
Can I
questions?
ask a question about busing?
Sure.
So do we still, or during this period of time now, during this transition, are we going to still be sharing buses? Like, so for example, don't we have several buses that go to several different schools?
We do have some
Yes.
schools that used to share buses. Pat?
We tier our buses, so the bus picks up kids at the high school and drops them off at the high school, and then they might pick up kids at an elementary school and drop them off at an elementary school. We
there's
only
gonna be-
have 135 big buses, so we couldn't, if we were to not untier the buses, we would have to add another, 200 buses, and we're not able to do that. There's not enough equipment or capacity with the bus companies.
But there is going to be sufficient amount of time for bus drivers to do the cleaning before they have to get to the next school?
Yes.
May I ask a question?
If Ms. Hurst is done, Ms. Naylor, go ahead.
Yes.
Have we heard any feedback on buses for bus drivers for being required to clean the buses after, which is considered an additional task, I think, to what they would normally do? I've heard about that in some districts where they're getting kickback from certain positions, whether it be teachers, bus drivers, who are saying it's not my job to clean and do all of that. Are we seeing that or hearing that at all?
Deb Duncan, who runs our transportation department, has confirmed with the bus company that they will be doing it.
Okay.
That being said, we don't oversee the bus drivers, so we don't communicate directly with the bus drivers, so I wouldn't know the answer to that.
Can I ask a question, Pat, Ms. Roach? The majority of those buses, though, do have bus monitors, am I correct?
On our mini buses, the majority of them have bus monitors. On our big yellow buses, the majority don't.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none, that's a full presentation. We'll now move on to reports.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Taylor.
I just have a comment. I'm really concerned, and I guess I want us to think about having this on our radar, that we've had a lot of issues in the past with the fact that we don't have enough bus monitors for the buses, right? And I think now during the pandemic, the requirement, the additional step of making sure that the kids keep their face masks on or whatever the case may be, I don't know. I just feel like that it could pose some concerns later on with the fact that we don't have enough bus monitors. So I don't know. I'm just visualizing kids being on the bus and not cooperating because a lot of them don't cooperate pre-COVID. And what does that look like as far as discipline? Because that's not something we traditionally would have disciplined for, them not maybe taking their mask off or doing whatever. Like, how does that work when it comes to those kinds of things that are going to surface now because of post-pandemic that we didn't have to think about before when it comes to disciplinary actions or other things that may require kids to be put off the bus or whatever the case may be?
Pat, do you want to take that or do you want me to?
If you could take it, that would be great.
Yeah, the bus driver or monitor, depending on a bus, always refers the disciplinary issues to the building administrators, and the building administrators would follow up with a discipline and contact the parents on those kind of issues. So that would operate the same. They follow up through the building.
I have another question. So if you have a child on the bus, sorry.
You done, Ms. Naylor?
I am done, but I think Barbara's probably leading in the direction I probably was getting ready to ask about. So I'm going to let her ask what she's going to ask.
That's Barbara.
All right. So if you have a child on the bus and you get home and the parent is not there, where do they take the child?
So
I know it used to be Rebecca Johnson, right?
Right. It was a Rebecca Johnson holding center for years. If it was a kindergarten child or a special ed child that went door to door. Pat, do you have any feedback on that?
We were still planning to take them to Rebecca Johnson.
Are they aware that that's the holding center or school? Or are
I
they aware?
apologize, Barbara, is who aware?
The school, Rebecca Johnson, are they aware that they are the holding center for this year, for now?
It's been the holding center for years, so I don't think we had any specific conversations.
Okay.
But you
All
can
right.
follow up and check it, Pat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to follow up.
All right.
Principal Sutton, make sure he's aware.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Say again, any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move to reports of standing committees, student relation, parent concerns, Ms. Gresham.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We had a informal presentation, informational presentation update on Comcast internet program that went very well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Any questions or comments on Ms. Gresham? They've been an important component on this remote aspect.
They sure have, yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Gresham. Building and Maintenance Committee, Vice Chair Collins.
The only thing is that we've been getting a couple emails from the state where they're assigning people to work on our project, so they're moving along very well.
Thank you, Vice Chair Collins. Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll move Legislative and Contracts Committee, Ms. Perez.
No report at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Perez. Curriculum Programs Committee, Ms. Hurst.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So as we know, or we've discussed previously in the past, it came through subcommittee that there was a request that we review the High School of Commerce mascot. And we had several subcommittee meetings that occurred, with the last one occurring probably about a month or so ago. And the recommendation coming out of that subcommittee was to move forward with a town hall, which would then ultimately result in recommendations being made to the full committee. I've reached out to Vice Chair Collins, and most recently was informed that we would not be moving forward, but instead waiting for a decision from DESE. I've expressed my concern about that particular course of action, considering that we did follow the appropriate protocols and went through subcommittee, and at the very least, it should make its way to the full committee, if not the town hall. And then, I will say that I was told that there was a lot that was happening within the district, which I recognize, the return to school. And at the very least, think that if it wasn't going to happen in the months that I had proposed, late April, sometime in May, that at the very least we would extend it out, because it is a concern that has been brought up. We do have a commitment as a district to look at equity and anti-racist behaviors. And I think that the process at the very least needs to be followed, and that it did go through the subcommittee and should make its way back to the committee. So I wanted to make sure that I reported out where we stood, because I've gotten quite a few inquiries about where it is that we've landed and why there's been no movement forward. That would conclude my report.
Thank you, Ms. Hurst.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Ms. Perez, go ahead.
Now, I understand, and Denise, you probably could answer, this is in legislation right now, right? To be discussed. So if we take a stand on this matter, would that affect from the stand that the legislation might take, and how would it affect us? For purpose of explanation, please.
So not to be flip, Maria, I think that I think it depends on who you ask. All across the Commonwealth, there have been districts that have already taken a stand to change the names of their mascots. We've also seen it occur nationwide with respect to things such as what was called the Aunt Jemima Pancake Box, to the Washington football team, to some Major League Baseball teams. And so, yes, there is currently legislation sitting in the legislature to determine whether or not DESE would mandate it. And I did express my concerns to Vice Chair Collins that we have not necessarily sat idle before and have waited for DESE to mandate us to do something. At the end of the day, the mascot is inappropriate and racist in nature. And so we shouldn't have to wait for DESE to tell us to do something that is right.
So, yes, Mr. Mayor, I indeed did send an email to Committeewoman Hurst. What my email did was mention the fact that there is legislation that has been filed in both the House of Representatives and the Senate, and that thereby raising this whole issue to now a statewide discussion. And I did go on to mention that my personal belief and my personal experience with this has been that this issue raises extreme emotions on both sides. And nothing could prove that more than the fact that I have heard from a number of constituents, 95% of them being people of color, angry over the wanting to go forward. Just like I'm sure the people who want to go forward have very strong opinions. And nothing could prove, I don't think there's anything more to prove that this is an emotional issue than the email that I did receive from you, Mrs. Hurst, that I found very visceral. I found to be a personal attack. I think it impugned my character. I believe that it called me a racist and that it said I don't believe in equity. And so it was a very difficult email to read because we've been colleagues for 10 years and indeed friends. And I still believe nothing gets thrown out because of one issue. So I went back and reread mine, and it indeed could be interpreted for me to say that the school committee should not have a voice, should not have a say, and that's wrong. That should not be the case. Whether we proceed or wait for the legislation should be a school committee decision, and I will put it on the next agenda so that we can discuss it and decide whether it's because of the emotion, number one, the emotion that this brings and can divide our cities significantly, and because the legislation is already filed in both houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives, that we should see what the statewide discussion brings up and whether the legislation gets passed. I've been around a long time. I also believe that there's a possibility that they might stick their heads in the sand and let it die in committee. And if that does happen, then we have to have a whole new discussion. But I believe while the legislation is being taken up, we should watch that process. This is my personal opinion. I'm not saying that has to be the whole school committee's opinion. We should watch that process, see what happens with the debate back and forth. If they deal with it and they say all these names must be removed, we now change from a very emotional process of taking a name off of a school to, all right, you've got to go pick a new name, which will not have the amount of emotion involved in it. And that's what I happen to believe.
So I'm going to provide some clarity as to what the town hall was for. So Assistant Superintendent Martinez and the Athletic Director Dwayne Early had done their due diligence and their research to figure out what was the best way to proceed and to find out what were some of the best practices that were utilized by other districts here in the Commonwealth. And through that process, we had 2 meetings where we heard from people from the tribal nations and from a local professor at Springfield College. And they shared with us what was the best way to go about this process, not necessarily saying that it was going to land on one side or another. But at the very least, you ensure that your community is informed and educated about why this is problematic for some. And so that is what was being requested, that we at least have a town hall so that the full school committee and the community could begin to learn and be educated and start from the same place as to why this was an issue. And so to not allow that to go forward does not feel very democratic to me. And for those 95% of people of color that have reached out to you, it would be imperative that they be a part or at least tune in so that they could hear another side. Because interestingly enough, the constituents that I have heard from have not necessarily been only people of color. They have overwhelmingly been people who identify as Caucasian. So at the very least, what needs to happen is for the process to see its way through.
Okay, I ask a question, please?
That's just correct.
Okay, so see, because first and most of all, as a school committee member in the issue that the subcommittee has met, I'm not educated well enough from the charge from the subcommittee what is going on first and most of all. I mean, I think that's the start from there. And looking at the community, I agree. But before we can enter, I would like to see a report from the subcommittee where we are with all this, and to get educated at this point. Because the only thing that I have learned from this issue is that it's in the legislative house and the Senate right now. We need to get educated what's going on, because I did some research, and this is an ongoing since 1992, and this was formed by 5 lawyers that started this. There's also issues of trademark and all that by what I was reading. So I would like to see a report or something that I could get more educated. What is it that is being charged in the subcommittee, and then create that process, and in the process see what is it that we want to charge the community. In the same way I want to be educated, we have to educate the community, but in that process we should not be I just want to create a balance, because I have heard people, and I have stated the same thing I'm stating tonight. I want to get more educated and feel. I have heard from people their feelings. So that's I question the legislation in the state center, because as you know, Denise, once we establish a consensus, then they come and say they're bringing us with all these fines. So I need to get more educated. What happened in the process that we take a stand in the legislation, the House and the Senate take another stand. So I want to see some kind of report so I could read and see where are we with all this. Please, thank you.
May I comment?
Yes, Ms. Daniel.
So first, I wanted to say, just as being a part of that subcommittee meeting, that when I first went in on the issue, and I said this during the meeting, I didn't think any way about it. I didn't have any opinion either way if we were going to pursue it or not. It didn't matter to me at that moment, but that's because I did not have the opportunity to be informed, and that meeting was recorded. And I would highly recommend to the other school committee members that were not at that meeting that you watch that meeting and listen to the conversation of those 2 women that were on the panel, and it will blow your mind, and it will touch your soul, and it will compel you to want to make a different decision. And so that's what I started to do an introspection and think about, if it was a Sambo's face or a maid or something that we were using as a mascot, how would that make me feel? Right. And I will tell you 110%, it would be shameful to me. And I've seen people make mockery of Black people, and I don't like how it feels. So to me, it's not about how big of a percentage of Native people we have in our community. It's about the fact that it is a racist, considered racist symbol. So I think, to Mrs. Hurst's point, and the reason why it came out of subcommittee was for us to at least learn about it, for us to review the process, and for us to say, does this make sense for us or not? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe there's enough people in the community that feels like it's not an issue and they don't want to pursue it at this time. And maybe there are people that are waiting for an opportunity to share their perspective. So that's all it was. It wasn't pushing either way. It was more or less inform and educate one another. And that came from the fact that not only in our own Commonwealth, but throughout the country, that people are doing this. And the kids in the schools are the ones that are saying, I am offended. I won't send my kids to a school that has a mascot because I'm reminded every day of how horrible that is to me and for my family and what it represents. So that is why it's become an issue in the schools, not because adults are saying it's an issue, but because kids are crying out and talking about how offensive it is to them. And those parents that have gone through the school system and experienced that are able to share and reflect on it. So this is why I was asking for a racial equity committee in the beginning of the year, because I do believe that these kind of issues have to be looked at from a racial equity perspective, whether it's Asian, Latino, African, Native tribes, you name it. There's a different conversation when you start to look at things from an equity lens. And we have not done that. And I think the fact, and I would say, Chris, I really do think that you're trying to do what's right. And I'm not in any way trying to make it seem like anybody who is anti-changing the mascot is racist. That's not what we're trying to say. What we're trying to say is that we need to all be educated because all of our kids, whether they're Black or white, are going to benefit or be hindered by what things we decide to do as a community and as a people. And if we're educated on something, it's our job, it's our duty, our obligation to come back and share that information and that knowledge, and not to sleep on it and say, I'm afraid of what it might do to somebody's ego or somebody's feeling or perception. So that is all I wanted to say about that. And I'm still going to continue to push for a racial equity subcommittee because it's necessary. And this is a poignant reason as to why we need to focus on race equity, because we are not addressing it as a committee, and we need to do that if we're going to continue to be effective in this work. And if we're going to talk about anti-racism, period, which we talked about last year when we did our statement on we're an anti-racist organization. Well, to be anti-racist means to act on that, not to be non-racist and say, oh, because we're not doing anything, we're okay. No, anti-racist is a step forward and it's actionable. So I'm going to be quiet because I feel my emotions rising, but I wanted to just say that in no way do I want those of you who are sitting at the table and those who are on this call that are not looking like me, right? Those that are white men, to feel that we're trying to attack you as an individual and call you racist. That's not at all what we're doing. So please understand that the emotion comes from the experience of being treated unfairly because of my color and because of the fact that I'm a woman, and me being able to relate that to another population of people who get mistreated in the same fashion.
And Mr. Mayor?
Let me go to Ms. Perez. Let me go to Ms. Gresham. She hasn't spoken on the issue. I'll come back to you, Ms. Perez. Ms. Gresham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was also at that meeting, and I piggyback on what Ms. Naylor said and Mrs. Hurst has said, and it was recorded. And I think each and every one of us, including the superintendent, the mayor, and Chris, should watch that recording. It'll change your mind, trust me.
Thank you, Ms. Gresham. Ms. Perez.
Yeah, and that's why I said what I said, because right now, I understand what Ms. Naylor's coming and Ms. Hurst, and I hear them real proud, but I feel that as a Latina, Black Latina, I feel like I'm in the two words, and I'm going to say that. So that's why we need to get more educated. And I think it's more the process, hearing the people, because I have heard of people that are offended, and I'm hearing people, students that are saying, I graduated from that school with a mascot, they're not seeing the same way. So I'm trying to create a balance here when it comes to that from the community perspective, because I want them to be informed. I want them to hear since 1992, this has been an issue. This is not an issue that happened just right now. I know that the NBA has been removing the logo, and I know how offensive it is, but we have to create a balance when it comes to the community, because then I got the ones that wants it and the ones that doesn't want it. I think that having a community conversation is excellent, but we have to create that balance and hear the ones that wants it and how we're going to create that process and the ones that doesn't want it. If I will say personally how I feel, I will have to unmute, and everyone needs to unmute how I feel about this. But looking at the community and what the community is saying, so we got to look at the process and see how we're going to go about this. I probably, I don't know. We need to. And as a school committee members, it's not only a subcommittee, it's what I'm trying to say. We need to really sit down all together, because the subcommittee of the subcommittee, right now, I know how I feel with this issue. We need to be open as a whole entire, not the subcommittee only. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Can I add just one thing? And I think to Ms. Perez's point, it's the education piece that I'm definitely advocating for all of us. We all need to be going through the same equity training that we're requiring our leadership to go through. We all need to be educated to understand that lens, because just because we've always seen things a certain way doesn't make it right. And that equity training and development is what helps you to start to see things from the other lens and get to see things from an empathetic standpoint. And we have not had that kind of training. Not since I've been on the committee. I know we haven't had any kind of training like that. And I really strongly recommend that not only are we asking our administrators to start doing this, which I know we have, and not only are we only asking our teachers, but we also need to be a part of it as well as leadership, because if we're gonna lead the boat, lead the ship, we gotta be able to understand what we're putting other folks through. And I'm sorry to say this, but we also need to think about when we're going to start being in person in our meetings, because if we're asking everybody else to go back into the buildings, we also need to start talking about that as well.
That point is already being examined, Ms. Naylor. If I may say, I think everybody heard me speak as a proud red grader, class of High School of Commerce, 1981, maybe a month or so ago on this issue. We are in surreal and challenging times. We need to continue to be laser focused, not only defeating this COVID-19, but reopening our schools. Issues like this in a non-appropriate time distract and divide. The town halls that people want to hear, or students or parents, is more about the schools, how they're going to open, what we've done, what we'll continue to do. So this is exactly what Vice Chair Collins has indicated. I know Ms. Search, you bring it up. I know you seek Vice Chair Collins' support many a times and accepted that with no issue whatsoever. But I know I hear from people, and believe me, my office gets calls on everything and anything. Maybe I'll get them now. Nobody has said boo pertaining to this issue. Now, I'm not saying there might not be an appropriate time to hash this out and look and get educated on, because there's been some communities that have done something, other communities who have stood pat because of the meaning to all the graduates that went through their schools. But right now, to be distracted and divided, not only as a school committee, but as a community, when we should be 110% laser focused on getting our students, our teachers, our administration staff back into school, continuing to be laser focused on defeating this COVID-19. And if any town halls are going to be called, as we've done before, they should be town halls pertaining to this issue that is right before us. Vice Chair Collins, as he's indicated, I've heard from other people that are proud graduates of the High School of Commerce, and proud, and we saw that the symbol there is courage, bravery, hard work, dedication, tribute. So I'm saying at an appropriate time, fine. But right now, to have this divide, distract from what is really should be on our plate, getting our kids, students, staff, administration back safely into our schools to continue to educate them. So you know how I feel. I said it a month ago and made out the points very emotional, but I will continue to stand proudly as a 1981 graduate, proud red grader of the High School of Commerce. But right now, I think we should be concentrating specifically on the reopening of our schools. And I didn't see this email or whatever, but I'll stand up for you, Vice Chair Collins, because I know Ms. Hurst, you've been very supportive. They seek your support, very supportive. And that's the last thing I would ever say pertaining to you. And it's, unfortunately, this is exactly what is happening now. Distraction and division. We don't need it right now. At the appropriate time. And also the state legislature is looking at this whole mascot. Now, we don't know what they're going to craft. We don't know if they're going to give local option. There's been Agawam across the river there. They decided they stayed with it. There was an uproar on that. So, that's all I'm saying. Listen, I'm very partial and I'm very emotional when it comes to my high school. And I think you're going to hear that. I respect other people's opinions, but if somebody diverse doesn't mean that they're racist or anti this or anti that. So I just think we should say laser focus on what is directly in front of us right now. Get our kids back safe and sound, our teacher administration, into our school system. Beat this COVID-19 and move forward at that point in time.
Just
Just
a couple of points of clarification from the discussion. Number one, I have never stated publicly how I feel on changing the name. And I'm not going to at this point either. But I have not, so people shouldn't assume what I feel about changing the name. The one thing that has changed this entire landscape is when we started this discussion and you held the hearings and brought in experts to speak with you, the one thing that's changed is there was not a bill filed that would address this issue. I don't know if the two are linked. I don't know if the discussion happening in Springfield helped promote the legislation being filed in the legislature. I don't know whether they're linked or not. One might make that argument. And the other clarification is that Mrs. Naylor, I know we haven't had one for the committee, and I agree that we probably should have training, but I have been through a number of trainings on both racial sensitivity and equity. Personally, I've been through a number. So I know what you're saying about people being educated and trained, but I personally have been. So, and I do see the benefit of it happening. I believe that you're correct there. That would be a good thing for the whole group to go through.
Thank you, everybody. Any more comments pertaining to Ms. Hurst's report?
Mayor, if I might say something, thank you. Well, it is true that when we first got on the school committee with Ms. Gresham and Ms. Hurst and Mr. Collins, we did have a lot more training, it seemed to me, than we have in the last few years. So I think we've gotten away from that, and maybe that hasn't been such a good thing. So I would say that, all kinds of training, whether it's, sensitivity training, diversity training, whatever it may be, I do think that's a good thing for all of us, and we probably should be doing more of that on a number of levels. And I also, just to piggyback on some of the other comments, I do think it is also fair that we talk about returning to in-person meetings, or at least if we have the option to return to in-person meetings, if we are going to ask our employees and teachers and students to go back to school in person. I think we should also talk about setting that example. And on the last issue, on the commerce issue, I'm a white male. I always feel in situations like this, it's best for me to just be quiet and listen and learn. And, because I don't know what it's like really to be discriminated against. And, I don't, when I look at the Red Raiders insignia, to me, I don't necessarily see racism. So I need to learn more about that and to understand it from the perspective of other people. And I think it's important that we do sort of stand together on this issue. You know, it is important not to be divisive, Mayor, as you said, but instead to work together, to stand shoulder to shoulder, to show, you know, folks in our community that, you know, that we all need to work together. You know, that it's best for us to do that, and listening and learning and having a dialogue. And if that includes a town hall or meetings on that, I think that, you know, when time permits, I think that's something we should take a look at.
Thank you, Attorney Murphy. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, yes. I'd be remiss if I didn't say something in closing. So, you know, this pandemic has done nothing but expose inequities. And this committee took a stand and passed a very strong resolution that was actually brought to my attention yesterday when we took a stand regarding the Black Lives Matter movement, and making sure that as a school district that we were honoring our students and our teachers and our staff and our residents. And so we are better than that. You know, the mayor's office every day sees 1,000 different things come its way. And I have to believe, Mayor, I'm pretty confident that you and your team go above and beyond to address every and anything that you can, because it's important to keep the wheels turning. It's important to keep operations going. And so the same applies here. We can't not address something because we want to say that we have to focus on something else. We can't, we're more than capable of doing more than one thing. And there's a lot of intersectionality in this. We just saw what happened in Atlanta, Georgia. If that happened here, we wouldn't say, oh, so sorry, our very large Vietnamese, Nepalese, Bhutanese community in Forest Park, we have to work to get our kids back to school. We would say, no, these people are a part of our fabric, they're a part of our city, and we have to honor them. And we have to make sure that they know that they matter. We just saw in Duxbury yesterday where the coach was fired for using anti-Semitic football calls. We say to our team, oh, sorry, hold on, we're gonna wait until the legislature decides on whether or not we should be using anti-Semitic language. Like, we're better than that. We're the city of first. We lead. We don't need to be told to do what's right. And that legislation that Chris is referencing, yes, it got filed in January of 2021. On the day that our subcommittee met was the day that the governor enacted the commission to study the state seal. But these changing of these names has been happening for years. For years. This is not new. This is not new. And just because you all might not hear it doesn't mean that we're not all hearing it. And people watch these meetings and they know where you stand, or they think they know where you stand, and they bring it to our attention. Just yesterday in a meeting filled with educators, somebody absolutely brought up the fact that there was a reference by somebody on the committee who named their mascot and felt like, oh, well, because that wasn't my mascot, then, you know, that's not my issue. So people are talking about it. Maybe they're not bringing it to your attention, but people are talking about it. And the time is now, because the pandemic has done exactly that. It has exposed inequities and exposed our vulnerabilities to our implicit biases and to not wanting to act on things that make us feel uncomfortable.
Mr. Thank you. And Duxbury, I don't think this, including myself, would have hesitated at all if that, God forbid, occurred here. That was atrocious and was moved on completely. The atrocities that occurred in Boulder, Colorado, and Atlanta, terrible. And nobody would say wait and see on that. Matter of fact, I have a rally shattering for our Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders on that. And nobody's been closer to the Vietnamese community than myself. So on some of the comparisons there, those were atrocious murders that occurred. That was terrible. And what that coach did in Duxbury, I don't think he would have had any hesitation, myself including, with the school committee on moves pertaining to that. So I don't think there's any hesitation when the school committee has to make decisions. But on the comparative, all I'm saying is right now, we should be laser focused on reopening schools safe and sound for our students, our teachers, our administrators. That should be our beck and call right now. This issue, maybe at the appropriate time, but this issue is already, as you can see, just in our school committee meeting, dividing and distracting. And I think the parents or students or people associated with our school system would like to hear maybe more town hall meetings on how we're transitioning back hybrid into full time. Then they have this going on. So, I mean, maybe at the appropriate time, but I just think this divides and distracts. And inequities have come up pertaining to this COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. And my administration has worked hard to make sure we address the underserved population, the Black and brown population, one of the few areas in the Commonwealth in relation to government. 6 vaccination sites. Where are those vaccination sites located right now? With Helen Carlton Harris, the people that are being underserved and they need that help. And we're going to pursue even more and more pertaining to that. So we have done that. Proud of the school committee, the city, Superintendent Warwick, 6.8 million meals have been served. Laptops have gone out to all, 20,000 to all our student bodies. iPads for our pre-K, extra laptops now for our teachers to teach. So I think we've been consistent on that. I'm just saying, again, I have emotional ties to the High School of Commerce, but I'm just saying right now we should be laser focused on getting our schools reopened safe and sound. And maybe at the appropriate time, this is looked at. There have been some communities that may change. There have some other communities that have not changed the name also. But it takes away, it is a distraction, it does divide. And I think right now, we need to be laser focused. But
so, Mr. Mayor, if I may ask a question.
Sure.
So you're saying we're laser focused on opening the schools, right? So we got that plan done, right?
Right.
So when would you think is the appropriate time if it's not now?
Not now. Not now. It's because you're going to get them open.
My question is, so you're saying not now, but when?
At the appropriate time.
That's not an answer, Mr. Mayor.
I'm not going to get into back and forth with you.
Yes, but you should be able to say, okay, so May or June.
I'm not going to say anything because right now, 24/7, what I've been living has been living COVID-19, defeat COVID-19, provide for my residents and provide for my business community. That's been the laser focus, as it should be, because we're all working together.
I agree with that.
And so to have something to distract and divide, that's my feeling, that's my opinion on it. I have not seen, maybe now I will, people think, I have not seen any type of groundswell pertaining to this issue. People are entitled to their opinion, I respect that. But I just think, while we're trying to unite and work together here, something like this, at this time, to distract and divide from what really needs to be done right now. Can be reviewed at, reviewed at the appropriate time. I don't know if something happens on the state level or not, but that's my feeling. I listen to everybody else's feelings. Those are my feelings.
Mr. Mayor, may I request that I know we need to table it so we can move on, but I do want us to revisit this conversation sooner than later, and not necessarily only pertaining to the mascot, but in general. There's some things that I think we need to talk through and work through as a school committee. And it would be more assuring for me as an individual, and I think also for our constituents that are viewing this, to know that yes, we all do agree. We want what's best for our community and for our city, and we all have our own perspectives on what that is. And so I think that, yes, I understand us tabling it at the moment, but I think we need to have an immediate turnaround as to when this conversation will take place, because I think as a committee, this conversation right now is very telling that this is not over and we need to continue to talk through this.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any other
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Ms. Perez.
Yeah, and that's what I had said from the beginning. We need to sit down as the whole committee, and I think I was clear, very clear, loud and clear, and just discuss this. How we going to put this perspective together as a whole committee? And I think it's a conversation that is due I'm charged, to educate my community. And that's, I said it from the beginning, as the whole committee, we need to sit down and put the process in place. And it's needed, the conversation is needed, but it has to be an effective, appropriate, and balanced conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perez. Again, thank you, Ms. Hurst, on the report. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, Budget and Finance, Vice Chair Collins.
The ads going in the paper for our public hearing, we're going to continue to go as we have always, to get as much input from the public as we can.
Any comments on Vice Chair Collins?
Just a comment,
Yes.
Vice Chair, I also did see it in the news. So we are doing a good job. Thank you to Azelle and team. Yeah, it's being publicized very heavily, and so we're doing our job. So those of you who are listening, we need you to do your job and please respond. Thank you.
Thank you for, I know phone calls have gone out too to households too.
Absolutely. I did get several of those as well from each of my kids' schools.
And I have my testers out there. And you guys, we doing a good job. We doing a good job.
Thank you. Vocational Education Committee, Attorney Murphy, please.
Oh, no report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Technology Committee, Ms. Naylor, please.
Yes, sir. We did have a subcommittee meeting. It was a joint meeting with parent concerns, and our agenda items were the coaches having access to Power School and cyber attack update. And Paul is going to be doing some organizing of information for us so that we will be able to return to a subcommittee in the future and be able to discuss what options are available for us to make decisions as to how to proceed from there.
Thank you, Mr. Naylor.
Could I say something, Mr. Mayor? In that committee, I gotta give kudos to the coaches. It was a good subcommittee meeting, and you know what? They are very in tune with your students. They're proud of the student through that presentation, and it was a great subcommittee meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Perez. Any other questions or comments pertaining to Ms. Naylor's report? And herein, thank you. School Safety Committee, Ms. Gresham.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Gresham. Special Subcommittee Staff Demographics, Ms. Perez.
Yeah, no report at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. I don't know, I didn't see Naz on. Sometimes he is on the meetings. A reporter, the student representative for the school committee, Nazir Jennings, Springfield Public Day High School. I know he does work though too. Naz, I know you've been pretty faithful being on for a little while. All right, Naz, listen, good health and to you and your family. And thank you again. Report of the Superintendent, Superintendent Warren, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to talk about the meals program that since we closed down, which is a little over a year ago, it doesn't seem possible, but we've provided families with 6,734,232 meals. We're going to continue the meals program when schools reopen. So families can continue to go and pick up the meals. We're changing the times. It's going to be 4 to 6, so it'll be after school, so they won't interrupt the school traffic. And we're going to have 11 sites when we reorganize, working with Sodexo. So the good news is we're going to keep that program going. That's been a big success. And we're going to have different hours to make it work really well. And we'll have the new sites up on the website so that everyone will know where they are. We'll have Azell publicizing.
Superintendent Ward, can I just say too, we have the Oasis Food Bank through John Foley, Tedesco, the Food Bank of West Massachusetts. We work together to place that at Central High School. We serve 3,500 families every Friday. With schools coming back in the session, we don't know when high schools will be back in session, but Superintendent Warwick indicates it could be shortly. We are working on finding another site so those families can continue to be served with the boxes and boxes of food. So stay tuned. Right now, it's still at Central, but it will have to move there because it engulfs all of Central High School parking lot, and it engulfs all of Smead Arena parking lot too, as we orderly transition on how the stops are for each section of food we give out. So just that triggered my mind to give an update. So we'll announce well ahead of time. It's still at Central right now, but in the very near future, when we go back to school, it will be moved to another site, which we're trying to work on, either public or we're going to private site that's big, large enough to handle the 3,500 families we feed every week.
Thank you, Mayor. I had forgotten that piece. Student attendance as of the end of February, 92.2%, only 0.8 off our regular average, which was 93 last year. So again, it speaks to the staff doing a great job keeping the kids engaged, keeping them involved. So we want to compliment our staff on that. The results are embargoed, but we did get a draft of our graduation and dropout rates, and very good news on that. I can't release any specifics, but our dropout rate's going to be down 70% since 2012. Incredible. And our graduation rate has risen about 30%. We're going to break that 80% mark. So great news on that. When we get the specifics, when it's not embargoed, we'll bring a report back to the school committee, but it's outstanding news, and I'm really proud of our staff on that. We did get some DESE guidance on graduations. The initial guidance was very bad relative to indoor programs. They were talking about 100, and there was a cap on outdoor programs. They now have opened it up, encouraging outdoor programs, and if you can spread the crowd out, you can have a full crowd at an outdoor program. So we have a team looking into that because it seems like it would be the best venue, so we don't have to go with a virtual graduation like we did last year. So we have a high school team taking a good look at that, but that guidance now is very favorable so that we can get our full crowds in and have a full experience for our kids in an outdoor graduation. So we're working on that as a team. We're also working, and Jeannie Clancy has done yeoman's work on this, a concept from Worcester to help us with the medical waiting rooms. We're hiring agencies to take a look at providing some extra CNAs to us to staff those medical waiting rooms. So we have some agencies that are now coming up with folks, and it'll give the schools extra support with the staffing of the medical waiting rooms rather than pulling staff. So we'll be getting more information to you on that, but Jeannie has done a great job organizing that. The last topic is MCAS. As I know a lot of people are following it, the commissioner is saying MCAS is still on and access. All of our state associations are still fighting that. We're hoping to get them to back off. We need help at the federal level, but I don't think anyone's petitioned at the state level, the federal level yet. So people are working with the legislature. People are looking to reach out to the federal government. Again, I think the present administration wants to continue with the MCAS, so they really haven't looked to get that federal waiver yet. So I think it's all of our associations continuing to fight the fight. But if our staff is working, so if we're mandated to give the test, we're gonna provide opportunities for our kids to take those tests. And a real focus for us is going to be, our kids who need it for graduation, our high schoolers for the CD requirement. So we'll have more information on that. Access test included with the MCAS, because for a lot of these kids, they're going to come back to school, and as soon as they get back to school, they're going to do nothing but take these standardized tests that aren't going to show us anything that I don't think we don't know already. So we'll have more information on that, but I encourage everyone to continue with your state association. I've been working hard with MASS, the Superintendent's Association, to continue to fight on this. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Superintendent Wilk. Any questions or comments on the superintendent's report?
Just a
Excuse me.
And then I'll go to Ms. Taylor.
Superintendent, I mentioned to you earlier that I was going to be on a call with Chairwoman Peisch today, and we talked about the issue of the MCAS, and her response to me was that they are still working on possibly doing a waiver for the 11th graders this year, which we already know they gave a waiver for the 12th graders this year. And I shared with her the concern of around the fact that after 10th grade, we expect the kids pretty much have passed and we don't have curriculum that we focus on for MCAS because that's not the way we do things. We try to focus on things the kids need to know for post-graduation. And so I also did let her know that we are very concerned about the mental health of our kids and feeling like the fact that COVID has already done what it's done, the pandemic has caused a lot of stress, not just for our kids, but also our teachers. And the learning loss, it's not fair to ask them to now have to sit in an MCAS and for hours, spend hours of learning time and sitting in MCAS, never mind the fact, oh, you might need it for graduation. And so what she assured me of was that they are working on that piece for the juniors, and particularly because of the conversation today. So we should hear good news at some point in the near future on that. But she also said that from her recent conversation with Commissioner Riley, that they are going to, they're planning to have the MCAS, but they're planning to decrease the time required. And they do not want to, they're asking for districts not to spend the time prepping as we normally do. And I wonder if that's even being translated to you all, that's not what they're expecting, that they want to use it only as a diagnostic. And I say that because, and I'm sorry, I'm getting a little long-winded here, but I say that because I mentioned to her that a lot of our kids get under stress when they hear about MCAS, and especially now, under the stress they're already under, to now have to think about that. And she said, well, it's not going to be held for accountability issues or aspects. And so from that standpoint, the kids shouldn't be as stressed. I don't understand what that means for you all who are now in a position where you still want to make sure kids are successful taking an MCAS. So I just wanted to relay to you what happened during the call today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Alice has been a good friend of education. She's been very helpful to Springfield and a good leader in the Commonwealth. And I think her heart's always been in the right place. And I'm glad the legislature is putting pressure on. I know the commissioner is still saying that we're going to give it for diagnostic reasons only, even though it's not a diagnostic test. So most folks don't agree with the commissioner on this and the Secretary of Education. So I think we should just continue like you are to keep the pressure on, is that the argument it's not going to be used for accountability. It's a lot of time to give the test, and at the end of the day, if it's on the front page of the paper, it's read that way anyway. So that they're not going to name any new level 4 schools. It's not I just don't think that's an adequate response at the state level. I think we need to keep the pressure on. They did tell us they're cutting down the time. I was thrilled they're cutting down the time, but at this time, when you're coming back this late in the school year, just don't think it makes any sense for the kids. And I agree with you. We're going to try to get them back into routines, and right away, standardized testing, it does put stress on folks. I was talking to a family the other day, and the student does very well, but gets incredibly stressed over MCAS. And the mother was saying to me, why are you doing these MCAS? And I said, we're trying our best to avoid that this year. So I think we need to follow your lead and just keep the pressure on. And our organizations are doing that. So I think we need to keep the fight on. But they did say there would be less time, and we're working on that schedule. And we'll work to implement if we have to, but in the meantime, anything we could do. So I'm thrilled to hear for our 11th graders that they're not going to face that as a CD requirement, because that would be absolutely ridiculous, given the fact that we've been out of school this long. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Naylor. Before I go to Vice Chair Collins, we want to be able to have, guidelines, but I think what you said before, coming back, we need to put an onus on mental health counseling, mental health support, extracurricular activities as the hook to continue to educate now as we go into the summer. And it is stressful. We're all for accountability. We're all for stand-up. But Tony, you hit it right ahead. There's got to be a balance. I agree with you and Superintendent Ward. Don't tell me, well, we're not going to use it as a thing. You don't have to prepare for it. Because on the front page of the paper, it'll say XYZ community. That's what'll grab the headline. That's grab the eyes of the people on the headline there. When you swap, it really doesn't mean anything, but we still want to do it. But then it will be associated as, well, did you see what this district got? And we've done, we moved up well. So there's got to be a balancing act. So Vice Chair Collins?
Well, I just want to make sure I heard the superintendent correctly when Desi sent you guidance saying 100 visitors could go to a graduation?
Inside.
So if
The original guidance was 100.
If we move to the Civic Center, we could have 100 guests.
That was the last guidance I saw. They're encouraging the outdoor because they're safer.
You might, that's the other thing too, the 12% is the percentage now for large facility. Tony, you brought up about in-person school committee meetings, but I believe those are the style. We're working. It
was Peter.
I think Latonia brought it up too.
Yeah, I think they both.
We're working on that now. I don't think if a school committee member wants to do it, I think the issue here is what are you allowed at the current time for audience to come in? If they're unable to come in, what are you supplying them visually so they're part of it? So that's something we're already discussing, because you're absolutely right. You got to lead by example, and they're asking our teachers and students to go back. So that's being looked at right now to do that, but you can only have so many of a public in an area. Graduation, Superintendent Ward, I think you mentioned it at the presser, like the COVID-19 presser at the hospital. He's working on the graduations now. We're going to try to be very, very creative, so we give our seniors that personal experience, and I'll leave it to the superintendent to approach the time. Vice Chair Collins, so.
And that's okay, but I like with Tony and Peter, I too was thinking, once we go back, once kids are back in.
Vice Chair brought it up too last week, or 10 days ago.
So I've asked Pat Sullivan, the facilities, to take a look and see
how we can
if we can meet in our room. And also Paul, I think Paul's still on, is looking at setting it up so that anybody who needed to present to us might be able to Zoom in. So we wouldn't necessarily have to have public in them. They'd still be able to talk to us and Zoom in. So we're looking at it all to see what, and I think I'm going to ask Patty to reach out and get input from everybody. What are the dates that what do you think about returning to live meetings, and when you think it would be, we should. So I'll ask Patty to poll everybody and get some input.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any other questions or comments pertaining to the superintendent's report? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Superintendent Ward. Unfinished business? Hearing none. Any new business? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Motion by Ms. Naylor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Perez. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Naylor?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Board is sufficient vote. This matter passes. Again, good health to each and every one of you and your families, the viewing audience, and Easter and Passover right around the corner. Happy Easter and happy Passover. God bless you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
You guys take care.
Bye.
God bless.
Bye.
Take care, guys.